Let me give you a quick story with that one. We're working on a project with BP. BP Fabrics and Fibers. They make carpet backing. Like this carpet that's on the floor, if you look at the underside of it, it's this kind of, it's not very pretty. It's usually gray or beige, but it's what you sew the fabric into. And most of the carpet, of course, is made in, where's most of the carpet made in the United States? Dalton, Georgia. Who said that? Okay. Dalton, Georgia. These plants that make the carpet backing are in South Georgia. They're in places like Bainbridge, Nashville. They're south of what's called the gnat line. Anybody know what a gnat is? What's a gnat? Yeah, they're these little tiny bugs that fly around your face and, you know, get out of here. You know, I don't know what it is. Like south of Macon, Georgia, something about that. So all these plants are south of the gnat line. So anyway, one day, actually I saw this on the news. The governor of the state was up in Dalton making this big announcement about this new warehouse that BP Fabrics and Fibers was going to build. I remember it was a $15 million project. And about 2 weeks later, in our Sunday school class, one of the guys in the class, who I didn't really even know that well, he said, well, Dr. Frazelle, don't you, he didn't call me doctor, okay, Ed, don't you do something in logistics? I said, yeah. He said, well, I'm the head of logistics for BP Fabrics and Fibers. We just decided to build this new warehouse up in Dalton. Can you help us design that? I said, probably, okay. So long story short, we get into this, and at that time, and sometimes we still do this, we did an off-site session with the project team. And this was down in Destin, Florida. Anybody ever been to Destin? Now you can't get away with this, but then, you know, we could. So anyway, we were there in Destin, starting the design session, and we get into the customer service policy, because that's the first thing I always ask. What's your customer service policy? Well, our customer service policy is we want to have the product to the customer within 24 hours. I said, okay, where are the plants? Well, the plants are in South Georgia. I said, okay, how long does it take a truck to go from, let's say, Bainbridge to Dalton? I don't know, 5, 6, 7 hours. I said, okay, what's your customer service policy again? We have to be there within 24 hours. So I'm thinking, okay, why do you want that warehouse? Well, we want to be closer to the customer. That's what we've told everybody. I said, okay. I said, well, do you need to be closer physically, or do you just need to get the product there within a certain period of time? We just need to be there within 24 hours. Well, I said, you're already pretty close to the customer. He said, no, we need to be, we'd like to have a presence there. I said, well, you can have a presence with a billboard. You don't have to have it with a $15 million warehouse. He said, well, then what should we do? He said, we're trying to reduce our inventory. I said, well, building another warehouse is not going to help you reduce your inventory. That's going to increase your inventory. I said, just coordinate the schedules between the 3 plants down there with a milk run and just go up there overnight. He said, then we don't need the warehouse. I said, you don't need the warehouse. We need to go play golf, you know. Forget this thing. Literally, we stopped after one day. So he said, well, who's going to tell Frank? Frank was the president of the business unit. He was the one who'd been on TV with the governor. He was mean, okay? I mean, this guy was mean. I said, I'm not telling him, okay? I said, you have to tell him. He said, okay, I'll be in the car with him next week. I'll tell him. I said, okay. A week later, I said, well, did you talk to Frank? No, I couldn't do it. You have to tell him. You're the consultant. I said, well, okay. Because I thought my friend might get fired, you know. And it's easy for them to fire us. So I thought, how am I going to explain to him that he doesn't need this warehouse? So I went, literally that's where this diagram came from. Is in a desperate, you know, prayer at 2 in the morning, how am I going to explain this to him? And that's where that diagram came from. And it all started with the customer service policy. I explained, say, here's your, yes. And you want to have less inventory? Yes. And you got these 3 plants, and they can get, yes. And well, we already have the truck, yes. And he said, we don't need that warehouse, do we? I said, no, you don't need the warehouse. And I thought, what are they going to do? You know, because they made this big announcement. You know, by the grace of God, they sold the land at a profit, et cetera, et cetera. But that started a whole supply chain initiative right there. That's why you don't start with the warehouse. The warehouse usually is a physical manifestation of what's going right or wrong in the supply chain, but it's not the place to start. Okay? You always go through it the same way. Customer service policy, inventory, supply, transportation, warehousing.